Hello and most welcome. Today we will discuss self-esteem, the most essential part, the most essential thing in our life. Our guest today is Clarissa. Clarissa Burt is the author of International Flurry Award-winning The Self-Esteem Regime. Let's welcome Clarissa to the show. Clarissa, tell us how are you doing
Nappy,
today?
I'm doing really well. I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and the weather is amazing and the sun is shining. And I did my workout and I am ready to go. So let's get started and tell everybody just how important self-esteem is.
Wow, a very good energy from your side. Tell us first. Tell us first about a little about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been basically for my whole life, working in media and movies and television, and I modeled for some years back in the day, and I always felt along the way that there was something that I really wanted to learn more about, and that was more about personal development, self-improvement, self-awareness, self-esteem. And I think that was because I also had seen the people around me not really living their greatest lives, and their perception of themselves was always, quite different than my perception of them. I'll start with my mother, who was a beautiful. Let me see. I have a picture somewhere I can even show you as a young. This is my mother. She was, oh no, take a picture of me. I look horrible. I come out horrible in pictures. That's my mother. Can you see her?
Wow, she's incredibly beautiful. Yeah,
She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. That little girl obviously is me. But you can see
and
my mother.
she's
As-
beautiful too.
So
Yeah,
as a little girl looking at this woman and saying, "Oh, my mom is really very, very pretty," and having my mother say, "Oh, I look horrible. Don't take my picture." I
wow,
didn't understand that. I think it's obvious why I then was very interested to learn about being more in front of the camera, right? Because I didn't understand what the problem was. My grandmother, and now this is an older picture of my grandmother, but I think you can see grandmother was
wow.
also,
She
yeah,
is
this is,
more beautiful of
thank
her
you.
time.
It goes, yes, and that was probably 1925, potentially 28. And so grandma was lovely, lovely woman, never needed to lose weight, but she was fixed that she needed to lose weight. So she took two diet pills one day, she perforated her esophagus, wound up in the hospital for 6 weeks. And my perception of her was, well, yes, I love you. You're my grandmother, but my perception as a young girl was I love you, and I think you're wonderful, and I love your personality, and you're so good and so kind. And I didn't see anything. My grandmother didn't need to lose a pound. So now I have those role models growing up as a very young child. Fast forward through high school, and I see that there are some girls that really were lovely in every way, shape, or form, but they were always unhappy with themselves about something, right? Or they were living in bad relationships or toxic relationships, or they were drinking and doing drugs and, trying to be something that they weren't. Or, again, yes, we're all learning things in high school. We're young and we're learning, but I never understood why they were thinking so little of themselves. Fast forward to my modeling years. I now, Nabby, am working in the field of fashion around the world in the 1980s with the most important designers on the face of the earth, with some of the most beautiful women you will ever see. And even some of those gals were unhappy or with themselves, or it was obvious that their self-esteem was really not. And again, mine wasn't the greatest either. Don't get me wrong. I also was still learning, but it was really interesting, and I saw that there's a correlation between my mother and grandmother in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and these beautiful creatures on the runways of all the most important designers in the world. And there was that connection was the lack of happy, healthy self-esteem. So I just wanted, I wanted to write a book to be the cheerleader, if you will, a rah-rah session, not only for women, but for men, and give them a little bit of a deeper dive with the self-esteem regime, which is a book about self-esteem. You're not going to read about self-esteem, Nabby. You're going to do the work. You're going to have each chapter is its own microcosm, it's its own little nucleus, and it does the work. So chapter one is release, for example. There are so many things, Nabi, that we think are written in stone, that they're etched in marble, and that because our parents told us or because our grandparents said it was so, that we believe it to be true for our lives. And maybe, just maybe, that isn't necessarily serving our greater good. I'm not saying that they did it on purpose, but maybe there's some wiggle room for us to learn different things in a new environment. Remember that our grandparents learned things 100 years ago, right? Or maybe 70 years ago when they were children. Or I'm not doing the math properly, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, and all the way back through the generations learned what they knew from their elders and what they knew at the time. So obviously things change, right? They morph. And that's where we, as our own individuals, get to reparent ourselves. Thank you, Mom, and thank you, Dad. And we'll, love to have a great relationship. I'll be home for Christmas dinner. I will see you for Thanksgiving. We will, we'll always be very close, always on the phone. But it doesn't necessarily mean that everything they taught us is necessarily the greatest thing that we need to serve our greater good, as I said before.
Amazing introduction. Thank you for sharing with us your story. And I really thank you. Before we had another discussion before our podcast, you had and you did an amazing job, a tremendous research, and the book and everything is a great service to others. So I deeply thank you for that. So I know you are an ocean of wisdom about self-esteem. So let me break it down for us to understand. And first, tell us, why is self-esteem so important, and what do we have to do to acquire it?
Well, not only is it's our perception of self, it's how we think of ourselves, how we believe ourselves, how we present ourselves to the world, what we believe we deserve. But it's also how we are now, let's say, teaching or training other people to be in relationship to us. So obviously, if we are thinking that we're not so smart, we're not so good, we're not good enough, we always hear that. I didn't think I was good enough. I wasn't good enough. Well, I don't know where you picked that up. Who taught you that? Who told you that? Where did you get that from? And where are those insecurities? Where do those insecurities lie? So we have to be really, really careful about coming to the table in love of ourselves. Now, loving ourselves is very far away from narcissism. They are two completely different things. Narcissism is a whole different show. Okay. It's the complete opposite of happy, healthy self-esteem. So be really, really careful with that, please, because people say, oh, well, if I love myself, then no, it means that you honor yourself. It means that you believe that you are worthy. And it's also the steadfast rules that you create in your life, or those boundaries that you will not pass, and you will not allow others to pass. You will not allow others to treat you poorly. You will not allow others to speak badly about you. You will not allow betrayal of any kind. And betrayal can be many different things. It doesn't have to be love betrayal. It could be financial betrayal. It could be someone that you really care about, a husband, a wife, a friend, or whatever, who makes fun of you in front of another a group of people, and that really hurts. There are many different ways to betray someone, so we have to be really careful with that too. So where is it that you will and you will not allow yourself, right, those boundaries? And that's really important, because boundaries, Nabi, are really difficult to create. And most people think that boundaries means you have to be angry. You have to be angry and say you and don't. No, that's really not it. You can create a boundary with ease, with joy, and with glory, and say, can I speak to you just for a moment? What you just did or what you just said kind of hurt me, and I'd like to explain to you why. And most people, if you're in a healthy relationship, will say, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I won't do it again. And please continue to tell me how I can value you and how I can honor you. If you say, hey, I want to talk to you and you really hurt me, that kind of hurt me. And by the way, you can say this very kindly. Doesn't have to be anger and emotion involved, but just say it very kindly. And if somebody comes back to you and says, oh, come on, get over yourself. I didn't mean it. I was just kidding. I was just teasing. You might be looking at you're in a toxic relationship. So I'm not saying to go too hard on it, and I'm not saying sometimes you can have a little laugh about things, but be really careful if that continues. If that happens on a continual basis, you really want to be very careful. Remember that we also bring a value system, right? We bring our own value system, which is really our moral code. It's a moral compass. And that is, again, when I talk about living in toxic relationships and the generational traumas, if you will, that were passed on, we learn to accept some of the things, as I said before, that we were taught. Well, when we decide that those things aren't serving us or that they could have potentially been toxic, we want the toxic to stop with us. I want the toxic to stop with me. And so, whereas I am imperfect and I am a human being, I also know that I want to be a better person tomorrow than I am today. And that I'm going to do everything in my power, whether it be books, courses, classes, mentors, whatever that is going to help me be a better person tomorrow than I am today. I'm down for that. I am ready for that. That's who I want to be. We have to be careful also about our value system, which is our blueprint. Nabi, our value system is our blueprint in life. And when I speak to people about, well, give me your top 4 values in your value system, a lot of people really don't know how to answer that question. They're not quite sure. Your value system needs to be your daily blueprint. It is what you come to the table with every day, with every relationship. It is your honor system, if you will. So mine, for example, is taking the high road. High being honesty, integrity, gratitude, and honor. And I will come to the table every day, Nabi, with honesty, brutal and radical honesty. Brutal, I try to stay away from, but it will be radical. Honesty with myself and with others. So, honesty, integrity. I want to make sure that everything that I do, again, I have my moral principles, that those are what discerns what is right from wrong. It is the difference between good and bad behavior. Right. For example, who are you when no one else is in the room? And who do you become when you don't get what you want? I want your audience to ask that question. Think about it for a second. When you don't get what you want, do you stamp your feet in the middle of the room like a 5-year-old child and scream and yell? Who do you become when you don't get what you want? So it really is like a commitment, right, to ethical decision making. That's what integrity is. Gratitude, I think we all know what gratitude is. If I say drop and give me 5 right now, you can probably come up with at least 5, if not more, things that you should be grateful for. And then honor is really, it's usually used as a military term. We think that that's really where honor really is. It's something that, especially when we talk about our parents, you hear about, honor your parents. And people say, well, Clarissa, I had horrible parents. They really weren't the greatest to me. Well, remember that honor is a weapon that keeps their dysfunction from overtaking you, right? It keeps your heart from being damaged also, and all of that. And it's about, remember that with your parents, when you want to talk about maybe not having the greatest parents, you have to remember that what they believed about themselves is what they projected onto you. Right. So if you don't come from a happy family, Nabi, you have to make sure that a happy family comes from you. And that's what a lot of the work is on you. A lot of the work, when I say the toxic stops here, you must be wanting to live in integrity and in honor and in with your moral compass, and your moral code. And sometimes it's going to be not so easy, but you must learn how to also stand on principle, stand on what you know is wrong and what you know is right. That's a great place to start.
Exactly. You beautifully explained it, and you mentioned about the narcissism and the healthy self-esteem. So can you give us an example of narcissism picture versus a healthy self-esteem that we portray from ourselves?
Narcissism is usually somebody who's constantly talking about themselves, somebody that's, wants to put themselves above everyone else. Their story is always bigger, better, and bolder and brighter than your story is. They are going to be, really very self-involved. You will see that they will probably not be doing much in the way of sympathetic or empathetic feelings. And so you'll know a narcissist when you see one, especially when you say, hey, I got this really cool book this weekend. The answer of me is I got a book too, but it's a really cool book and it's even better than that book. And your book is okay. It's not really great, but the book I got is the best book on the planet. It's a silly example,
Mm,
but you get what I mean. And so you want to be really careful about that too, because that's, narcissism is something that is the complete opposite, and it is the lack of healthy self-esteem.
mm,
So you got to be really, really careful with that. Go back again you know, to the boundaries that we talked about before. Where are you drawing a line in the sand, even with the friendships that you allow in your life? Again, you do all this with ease, joy, and glory, but you have to teach people how you want to be treated. How you will and will not be treated is on you. It is up to you to let others. Don't crawl into a shell. Don't cry. Don't feel bad. Don't feel sorry. Don't go into don't go into a negative energy space. Keep it
mm,
positive, let others know. I mean, I'm really very clear about, I think people know that when you have a good sense of what happy, healthy self-esteem is, and you have a uh, idea, really grounded idea of who your power in self-esteem. Most people will see that, they will recognize it, they will know it, and you will be treated accordingly. If someone doesn't necessarily know it, then create that boundary. There's no blame, no shame, or no guilt in creating a boundary, right? In creating healthy relationships and learning how to advocate for yourself.
great. Why have you implemented your book as a regime? Yeah, an
Why the
organized way
regime?
of doing things. Yeah.
Yes, it's an organized way of doing things. I understand. I lived in Europe also for about 30 years, and I understand that regime, obviously, it defaults into the military definition or military sense. But if you take a look at the real definition of regime, it is an organized way of doing things. And so that's why I named it the self-esteem regime. Because it rhymes, and I thought that it was a fantastic book title, but it also explains it all in one title. You know exactly what you're going to get. And with the 12 chapters in my book, each chapter beginning with a word, you will understand that as I said before, you don't read about self-esteem, you will do the self-esteem. There are case studies, there are affirmations, there are exercises in the book. They're all different things for each chapter, beginning with where you are, which the first chapter is release.
Mm,
There is such comfort, I think, in just the word itself, release. So let's release all of those things that we thought. Let's go back to what I said before: etched in stone, written in scribes, things that we were told and we were taught, and that we absolutely thought were truth, that maybe, just maybe are not, or the things that you believe in about yourself because of generational teachings or generational even traumas that are not true. So let's start with those things. We got to let go of all that. What do we believe about ourselves? Let's start from ground zero. Chapter 2 then is rebuild. So let's rebuild. Let's rebuild on all of that. And we go through that chapter, and you'll do the work. And people say, "Oh, I got to do the work." Well, let's say put in some effort, because if you are definitely you absolutely do merit. And I absolutely do offer that you work on yourself. I mean, you are a human being, therefore you will be in a constant state of evolution, right, in your lifetime. So when you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, there's different life will throw at you the things that you need to learn from.
mm,
And so therefore, there's just no way around not being reformed and reshaped by what life is teaching you. But what I would like for everyone to know through doing the work, the personal development work, again, through all of the things, the internet, YouTube, books, classes, courses, mentors, it's full of information, is that you continue is your sacred duty to do the work on yourself. Again, not only for the love of self, but for your relationship with others. I think it's some of the most important work that you will ever do. And, happy, healthy self-esteem, you asked me before, it's identifying positive things about yourself. It's that self-confidence. It's a feeling of belonging, of feeling competent, even being open to criticism. I'm open to criticism every day. We don't live in blame or shame or guilt, and people love, for some reason, they love living there because maybe your parents made you felt shameful about something, or you needed to feel guilty because for whatever reason. Okay, but learn that those are all very negative emotions and very low on the energy scale. So you don't want to really be opening yourself up to that kind of energy. You want to learn
mm,
how to forgive yourself, get
mm,
really on your values and learn how to forgive yourself. And when we talk in the book also about mirror therapy, this is a great, and look, mirror therapy, I think, is one of the most incisive, most impactful exercises that we can do, right? So,
mm,
and I learned this from Louise Hay. I love Hayes. I learned it from Jack Canfield, from some of the really the titans of the personal development industry, and I incorporated it into my book as well. So the idea of going into a mirror, there are two ways to approach a mirror, Navi. Two ways to approach a mirror. One is to look at the mirror, and that's when you're putting on your makeup, doing your hair, shaving your beard, whatever that is. Then there's the
mm,
way you look into the mirror. And when you look into the mirror is when it really, through your own eyes, grabs your soul. And when
mm,
you start to talk to yourself, start with 30 seconds a day, a minute, work up to 5, whatever feels comfortable. But in the beginning, it's going to feel really weird when you say, "Hi, Clarissa, good to see you today. I want to let you know that, first of all, I really like you a lot. I think you're just an amazing person, but I love you. I just love being in your company. And you know what? That presentation you gave last week in front of 300 people, what an amazing job you did. That was spectacular. And also, I want to let you know that, I forgive you for whatever. So you have this conversation that is uplifting. Again, it's a cheerleading rah-rah session full of positivity that you are speaking to yourself with your own eyes and ears. It's extremely impactful. It's something that in the beginning it feels weird, it looks weird, you're going to think you're weird. It's one of those really strange things, but it is what you're saying to yourself is what you would wish maybe others were saying to you. But if you wait for everyone else, you shouldn't, by the way, be waiting for anyone else to accommodate you in that way and to be giving you all the accolades. You should be doing that for yourself. Learn from your mistakes, learn about failure, your failure being your first attempt in learning. First attempt in learning. And celebrate some of the failures that you have, because your failure only means now you know what you're not going to do, and now you look for what you are going to do. You're that much closer to success, right? With each time you fail. So that's really, really important. And I think that another thing that I would really underline is, we are all so frequently so fearful of
mm,
so many things, so many things. And if we could learn to just trust
mm,
ourselves, trust the process, do the work, put it in the hands of a higher power, whomever that may be for you, and have faith and trust that it will work out the way it's supposed to work out.
mm,
I want to bring this is a very extreme example, but we're always in a hurry. A lot of us are very much in a hurry, in a hurry, in a hurry. There's not enough hours in the day, and we got to move quickly. And I'm full on energy all the time. So when I
mm,
get into a car, I've had this conversation this morning. So you get into your car, and there's always that car in front of you that's doing 10 miles slower than you want them to go. Right? You're in a hurry, and they're not.
mm,
So I think we need to understand that the universe, divine source, God, whatever we choose to identify with and to give our trust to, there's exactly what they're doing, Nabby. So for me, for example, recently I had some problems with blood pressure. And now I know that the universe is telling me that I have to think in a different mindset for my health. I have to start thinking in a different mindset. So maybe if we are going 10 miles slower, it's just fine. In another case, I was going fast. I was on a highway, and there was some people I couldn't get fast. I couldn't get past them. It was just a slower lane. I just wanted to go a little faster than they were going. And Nabby, in front of my eyes, if I had been going any faster today, I would not be here, because there was a truck. I don't know if you can see my truck. I hear I'm coming, and there's a truck going over this overpass who fell off the overpass and right in front of me and the highway. This
mm,
had to have been about 10 years ago. And
mm,
I was lucky enough to be able to stop in time.
mm,
I was far enough away at 70 miles an hour that I could stop in time.
mm,
If, if I was going potentially 75 or 80 miles an hour, I wouldn't be here today. So
mm,
these are the kinds of things that I say about, giving trust and giving faith that what you're asking for, what you're wishing for, uh, put it out there, and trust.
mm. Very good example. And from all you said, I inferred that we can always improve and optimize our self-esteem just a little more than before. But the question is, does anyone ever perfect self-esteem?
That's a great question, and I get that a lot. And the answer is no. The answer is we can get close. We can get very, very close. But I do remind you that life is an amazing place to be, but at times can be difficult. And that means here comes the storm, here comes the tornado, here comes the hurricane, and it's coming. And hunker down, and everybody does what they can as they're going through the storm. And when the storm passes, potentially, and I love this analogy, potentially, I talk about standing strong in your stead, your stead being really well rooted, like a well rooted tree. And so
Mm,
maybe in that storm, you've lost a leaf or two, or maybe you even lost a branch, but you weren't transported away and uprooted with the storm because you had the tools in the shed that you needed at the time. And
mm,
those tools in the shed are the things that we are talking about now. It's the personal development, the self-esteem, self-improvement, self-awareness, self-competence, just really doing the work on self. Forgiveness is another really huge part of what, things and the tools that we need to have in the shed at the time. Who is it that we need to be reaching out to? Who is it that we know we can be making that phone call to? Who is it? How would it make both parties feel if one person said, I'm sorry? Even if you don't necessarily feel at times that you were wrong, you feel wronged, but you were the first one to say, hey, can we talk? Can we work this out? It's a very empowering place to be. And it doesn't always work out the way you'd like for it to, but you know that you tried. You
mm,
can't control what happens to you. You can't control what happens to you in life, right? But you can control how you respond to it. And that therein lies the power.
mm. Now I have a comparative question. As I told you, I read a book about self-esteem written by Nathaniel Branden, The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem, and I liked it and I practiced it for 3 months. So
Yes.
you made it easier and narrowed it down to four pillars, although he wrote the
Yes.
six pillars of self-esteem. So
Yes.
what did you
Yes.
remove from it? And how did you do that? That's very amazing
Right.
stuff. Yeah, it's easier now.
Yeah. Yeah. The four pillars of self-esteem that I think are the most important are those four, much like a chair, the four legs of a chair, which kind of balances it out. You sit down on a chair and you're sitting there, you're not tipping over. The first one being look good. It's taking, people say, oh, well, self-esteem should have nothing to do with the way you look. Well, it's taking pride in your appearance. And I think that that's really one of the first things when we come away from that mirror that we were talking about before today as we were getting ready and
Mm,
we walk out the front door, we know that we look good and we feel that we look good. We have a different outlook on life. Our perspective is of ourselves is quite different. The inside would be greater look good, feel good. So feel good is diet, it's exercise, it's proper nutrition and wellness, it's self-care, it's taking care of our physical aspect, the physical us. And so knowing that we only get one body and that this temple is, a great gift that is giving to us and how we need to be, taking care of it in return. It may be with us and we may be with it for a very, very long time. And so we do want to honor that. We want to be really very mindful about how we take care of the feel good piece. Look good, feel good, be good is David. It's your head. It's your relationship. It's leadership. It's finances. It's business. It's learning how to be assertive. It's your even living with purpose, if you will. That is where your head is. Everything that you are thinking. Is where the greater good piece is. It's my book. It's greater good, right? Sorry, it's a be good. And so where is it that we know we can, as I said before, be really good at being us?
mm,
Just being really good at being us. And then greater good is paying it forward, giving back, volunteering, tithing. And it could be you could be doing that just at home. Because again, all of these lovely, beautiful things start in the home. It could be giving back locally, nationally, internationally. And yeah, there's all kinds of things that we can be doing. And some of them I think we talked about in our first encounter would be just something as simple as a smile to someone
mm,
in the morning when I wave to every car that goes by when I'm working out in the morning. Hey, because and some people will wave back and think I'm crazy, and some people just love to wave back. And you know that you've
mm,
started your day off. We are not connecting enough except through devices. And that is where one of the things I really have to stress. We have got to really come back to the human aspect of who we are without a device in hand, right? So saying hello to everybody. Hold that elevator door open for somebody that you could see is the bus, running for a bus. Hold the door, help a woman down the stairs with a baby carriage. Make a compliment to someone, just someone you may never know and may never see again, or someone you do know, obviously. But these are the simplest little things that we can do that will always make us feel better and someone else too.
mm,
So, it's it's so simple. It's us that we complicate things. Things are really much simpler than they appear to be at times. So I think we need to be real careful about peeling away all those layers, and just peel away all the stuff that's not working for us, get to the core of the matter and of the issue, and yeah, and take it from there.
mm,
Another thing that I'd like to leave everybody with is, everything that you're going through right now is really kind of preparing you for what you asked for. I
mm,
cannot tell you how many times I have spoken to people that are going through difficult things, and I say to them, yeah, but remember when you told me A, B, C, and D? Yeah. Do you see and they'll go, oh, you're right. I did say that. So word and thought, a thought being a word being energy, energy goes out into the universe, and the universe hears you, and it will respond in kind. So be
mm,
careful about what you're asking for and what your subconscious will believe you, no matter what you're putting in it, what thoughts you're putting in there. It's like deposits in the bank. It's the thoughts you put into your subconscious. You must be very careful about what you're saying, what you're
mm,
thinking.
mm. So a lot of people are lacking self-esteem, and I know that you know more than a lot of people that you see a lot of people not lacking this. So, what are some causes of low self-esteem, except of traumas or childhood trauma? Some other examples.
Low self-esteem usually begins with what you were taught at home. It definitely is the first place that we look. It's what we're learning on social media. It's what we're learning from television and media. A lot of it is television and media. So I like to give kudos always to this Dove Self-Esteem Project that's been working on young girls and self-esteem for a lot of years. In April of last year, our Attorney General Vivek Murthy came out and said that we now have a youth mental health crisis. And so a lot of that is now being attributed to social media. Remember that social media, a lot of the time, is what we are perceiving, what we perceive of others, right? And so it doesn't always necessarily mean that what we see on social media is true. We just see it and believe that it is. So one of the things that I want, especially younger people, but all of us to understand is that, we love that saying, oh, I am enough, you are enough, we are enough, everybody's enough. But I took a look one day at the definition of enough, and it is only as much as is required.
Mm,
So by definition, the word enough isn't enough. When you talk about the grass is greener on the other side, is the grass greener or is it astroturf? So is it plastic? Is it not real? And then I offer that the grass is always greener where you water it.
Mm.
So to be very, very careful, be extremely mindful of what we're thinking, of what we are ingesting with social media. We've got 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old girls who just want to be sexy and they want to have, they're using these filters and the filters. So there's this overall feeling in our young girls of lack of self-esteem because the way they are in real life naturally isn't good enough. It's not pretty enough. It's not influencer enough. It's not enough. And so these filters, there's one called Diva, Glam Diva, something along those lines,
Mm.
that was being called into question
Mm.
by the self-esteem. And that is turn off all those filters, get rid of these filters, stop teaching our young children that they are not good enough and that they could be so much better if they just turned on this filter. Well,
Mm.
maybe for a minute they're fun to play with, but it certainly, again, isn't reality. Got to be really, really careful with social media.
Mm.
So again, it is perception, and we've got to be really, really careful to know and to understand and continue to underline and support our youth by saying, you are phenomenal just the way you are. You're beautiful just the way you are. Because by putting on these filters, what you are is a fake version of yourself, and that nobody wants that.
Exactly. Not only the filters, but they have nowadays a lot of surgeries, and you cannot see the original
Yeah.
thing. Mm. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We could be here about plastic surgery all day, but it does start much, much younger than that.
exactly. You talked about the importance of support groups. Please talk
Yes.
a little about that. Who are they?
Yeah.
What they do?
Well, okay, that's a really great question. First of all, most of the things that we learn by the time we're 18, usually, devices aside, are what we learn at home. And so, the traditions and the values or lack thereof, we get, in the first years we get from home. Then we get all the stuff from the internet, which is like, phew, the wild, wild west as far as what you can learn, what you can find, what you can, again, ingest, what you're learning. So have to be really, really careful about that as well. And so learn to be really, really mindful about everything, all of your thoughts, all thoughts. And your support group needs to be who it is you are. There are places like Meetup, again, internet groups on LinkedIn, groups on, Facebook and different socials that you can go and find like-minded people of all different, ages, groups, all kinds of diversities, all the kinds of things that you or people that you would like to be surrounded by. And mostly, I would suggest find people that are supportive, find people that are going to love you for you. Sometimes in a lifetime, we may only find 5 people, right, in our entire lifetime that are really there for our greater good, right? So be really, really careful about who you let into the inner circle. And your support group should be the people that you have gone to look for, that you have vetted, and that you are allowing in your inner circle, because that's a very precious place to be. So
Mm.
be really mindful of that. That's a great gift that you allow someone, and they do to you as well. So again, that reciprocity piece for what a really good friendship is.
Thank you so much. That was very illuminating. So you have introduced mirror therapy. Okay, you also explain it. The last question that I want to ask you, that you underline living in a constant state of gratitude. So who would you like
Yes.
to thank?
Wow. Uh, I guess I would start off by thanking my parents. Again, parenting doesn't come with a manual. It doesn't come with instructions. It comes from what they knew at the time, what society was teaching them, what the church was teaching them, what their parents were teaching them, and then their imperfections, right, were relevant or were evident. And I think all parents can say that about any parents, right? It's just kind of the way things are. So just learning to thank them for who you are, and do, again, I could have stayed many years ago within that bubble and not have broken that bubble and burst out and then done the work that I did. Again, I am imperfect and I'm a human being and I do the best that I can on most given days. But I think it's really important to know that you can't be blaming anything or anybody else about how your life is going. You just can't do that. Grow up. Grow up, do the work, and know that, thank everyone that's come before my grandparents. I thank everyone that's come before me, different teachers, whatever, whomever it might have, anybody that I want to thank anybody that taught me a lesson, something that I really need. And even if the lesson was painful, those are the people or the circumstances or situations that I would like to thank.
Mm, thank you so much. Answering a lot of our questions and solved a lot of our problems, I think. And can you please tell us how people can find you and how to access your work?
Yeah, of course. I'm just, clarissaburt.com is the website. And I'm on every social. It's at, Clarissa Burt, pretty much anywhere except not Snapchat.
Hmm. I hope we can have another because we have another podcast. Maybe a lot of people want your wisdom. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on GNR podcast. It was really illuminating to have Clarissa share their expertise and insight with us. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below. Stay tuned for more engaging conversation. Until next time, take care and keep exploring new ideas. Thank you so much.